Thank you, Chairman Cook, Representative Baiting, for allowing me to testify today. Once again, my name is Mike Brown. I'm Legislative Affairs Director for the Department of Education. We appreciate the bill being held for a week as we kind of talk about a couple concerns that we have. Dr. McCormick ran through me this morning and yesterday. So, first of all, we appreciate the language that decreased the amount of days available for unavailable buildings to be posted, reducing it from the 2 years to the 90 days. So we appreciate that. In addition, we would ask for consideration and respect to the proposed language that allows for a district that is already in distress to be exempt from the requirements of Section 3. In addition, we would ask that the allowance of those districts who are not deemed to be distressed yet have entered into a corrective action plan and or those who appear on a watch list as defined by the fiscal indicators under last year's Bill 1315, if you all remember that. A concern is the provision currently states that a school must sell their buildings to a non-public school. The department thinks that this should be a may provision. In addition to that, and tying on to that, as currently written, if non-pubs buy and sell property for a gain, they should be required to send that profit back to the traditional public school. That is not required under the bill. And it's my understanding that charter schools would be required to provide that gain if they sell it back to the traditional public school. So non-pubs are exempt from that under this bill. Another concern is in reference to the school corporations who pass an operating referendum to share a portion of the money realized from the referendum with charter schools in the school corporations area. This will decrease the amount of money realized from the referendum by the school corporation. The school corporation will take all the risk and incur the costs of the referendum, but would have to share some of the proceeds with the charter schools. Depending on how many charter schools are in the school corporation's area, the decrease in the amount of money realized by the school corporation could be considerable. This would seemingly have a chilling effect to school corporations' willingness to pursue a referenda, which is the only way to increase funding oftentimes. In consideration of the voters, they now would not have the ability to determine where their tax monies go. So, like I said, we appreciate the opportunity of holding the bill and the willingness to listen to us. Be happy to answer any questions, but and also happy to work with Representative Baining and anyone else who to address some of our concerns.
Representative Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These schools that are sold, they have to be used as schools, correctly?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, so I'm sitting on I pulled up on Compass the iStep Plus for 10th graders. Okay, in 2017, in both English, language arts, and math, 66.3% of public school students did not pass. Okay, that's 2/3. Those are our standards in a system that we've controlled. We've had that student for 10 years. Do those horrid performance numbers just not beg to be trying something different?
Well, that's I appreciate the question. I know that we have our standards are very rigorous. We're setting our children up as we should for success.
2/3 of our kids can't pass their own standards in a system that we've had them for 10 years, and we should. You're expecting me to sit here and continue with status quo when we are failing that many students in a government-run system, and you're putting up opposition to try something different?
Well, Representative Lucas, we are certainly in favor to try new things, and Dr.
Is that what we're trying to do?
I think this is certainly anything that passes out of this committee, I would hope, would be to advance children and their learning to eventually have them increase their test scores or to have better schools. Absolutely. I think there are different ways to do it, and perhaps this bill is not it. But we are working to, for example, as part of our strategic plan to increase literacy. We're looking to increase STEM opportunities for children and for teachers. So we're trying to find ways to increase our test scores. Absolutely, that's always a goal.
Okay, looking at just math only, 66.3% of our students did not pass our own test, our own standards, after having students in our system for 10 years. That's just math only. Okay, in the private sector, we would be fired because those results are abominable. And given the fact that there's almost roughly 80,000 students per class, we are failing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of students every year and failing to prepare them for the real world. Now we're talking STEM, which is generally your higher areas of education. We're completely failing those students. So I am all for anything that goes outside this failing little box that we call government-run education.
Further questions, Representative Goodrich?
What you stated that this referendum sharing would be unfair. And again, I think I heard you say that that the school system would incur the cost of the referendum. Can you help me explain, or can you explain what the cost is to the taxpayers for a public school referendum, and what exactly you're talking about when it comes to the school would have the cost, or concur the cost of having a referendum? Can you help me with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's my understanding that anytime you run some sort of referendum, there's always going to be a cost, right, from the elections office. But dealing specifically with schools, there's certainly some sort of cost that is incurred through the beginning stages of a referendum, from the school board and whatnot, from engaging the community to letting them know, hey, we're coming out with a referendum, please support it. Whatever sort of marketing strategies that a school corporation may want to engage in to incentivize and to encourage the community to come out and vote it up. I'm sure there are other costs that are incurred that are just not coming to mind right now. If there are that I'm missing that are big, I will get with you.
So my understanding is that a referendum has to be funded by private. Are you saying that we're actually using taxpayers' money to go out and propose and persuade voters to vote for a referendum?
So I guess, unless I was misunderstood, it wasn't my understanding that a referendum had to be paid for from a private entity. I thought that there could be some expenses that are incurred from the taxpayer in order to begin and to carry out a referendum process.
Thank you.
So,
I wouldn't quote the law, but I just want to know. But we are, from your understanding, we're using taxpayer money that could go to education, our students and our teachers, to promote referendums to fund the school. Is that correct?
Well, no. I guess what I'm saying. I guess one of the biggest issues that we have with this language, charter schools being allowed to automatically be captured in a school referendum, is we are possibly jeopardizing the referendum process of being voted down by those individuals who live in the district and vote on this because they are some big supporters of their public schools and they want to see their public schools get funded. And so that we're just bringing it to the committee's attention. There's that risk that carries of it being voted down.
No, I appreciate that. But like you said, when 25% of IPS students are going to maybe a charter school, maybe the taxpayer, the parent choice, wants that tax dollars to actually go to the public charter school.
Sure.
Because really, at the end of the day, there's a lot of folks that vote no on a referendum, and their tax dollars still go to the public school. Correct?
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you. Representative Smith?
Yeah, before I ask my question, I think it should be noted that the charter schools, those percentages you're talking about, the charter schools as well as the choice schools for vouchers in my community are not doing any better. They're doing worse than the traditional schools. So the information that you shared about the mastery rate is more applicable to them than they are to our traditional schools. So I need to note that. My question to you is, you said that you support the 90 days. I need to understand, I'm still kind of vague on that. If I claim that I want to use this property, and I do that within the timeline of 90 days, I now have a 2-year window to do something. And then if I don't do anything, it goes back on that list, and somebody else can claim it. So we're keeping it out there more for deterioration and vandalism and other kinds of things that happens to vacant buildings in urban settings. Okay, and that's where the charter schools are, in urban settings. And so if you support that, that's that. I have no problem with closing the window for the 90, for 90 days, but to put it back on the list where the school corporation can't do anything with it as far as disposing of it, that is what concerns me. So how's your view on that? Because that could keep it out there for 6, 7, 8, 10 years out there.
Sure, and thank you for the question. So just to, I guess, restate what I first said, when a unused building gets put on our list under current law, that needs to remain on the list for 2 years.
Right.
This bill brings it down to 90 days.
I understand.
That's the particular portion that I spoke about that we are in favor of.
Okay.
Now,
what about the other end, the other information that's a part of this bill that puts it back on that list?
So just to restate, charter school purchases the property or leases the property. After a year, they decide to leave that building that sits unused for another couple of years. And so you're.
Well, maybe they never do anything with it at all, but they have 2 years to do something with it.
I'm just trying to think of a reason, and maybe someone can explain this. A reason why a charter would want to buy a piece of property or lease it and just let it go to waste.
They may not get the charter. They may not even get the charter. They're applying for one, and according to what the author said, that entity could apply or put claim on the property and not even have a charter.
I think you pose an interesting question. If that's something that you and Representative Manning want to come up with as an amendment to address it,
there's some gaps in there.
be happy to look at it.
Now, what is your opinion on? And I support your positions. Every position you had, except that one, I had a question about that. I support your positions. What is your viewpoint of charters with board members making decisions about local tax dollars, and they don't live within their geographical boundary? Right now, if we float a referendum, those persons who are on that board, because they're elected, must live in that geographical region. But with these charter schools, we have people who are from, and this is just from Gary for our 10. We have people who live in Elsip, Illinois. We have people who live in Valparaiso. It's in Indiana, but it's not in Gary. Munster in Indiana, but not in Gary. Hammond in Indiana, but not in Gary. Just a variety of places. Portage, but not in Gary. Okay, and they're going to make decisions about local tax dollars paid by Gary residents. It's unfair. What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I certainly understand and see your concern. Once again, I think you do make a good point. In order for me to formulate the best answer for you, what I'd like to do is to get an answer directly from Dr. McCormick. It's like I said, I don't want you to think I'm avoiding the question. I just don't want to speak out of line on the
I didn't really
department's
want you to
stance on this.
answer it. I just wanted to get that information out there. Thank you.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you. One more question.
I just add one more. Can you clarify? I think you used the term profit on. Maybe I misunderstood, but can you clarify that one type of school has to give the profit back and then one doesn't? And then how do you actually clarify profit on tax dollars?
Well, okay, so if you look on page 19, line 12, It says that if a school building is sold to a charter under this section, the charter school or any entity related to the charter school subsequently sells or transfers the building to a third party. The charter or the entity must transfer an amount equal to the gain, so it's not profit, it's using this law, it's a gain, in the property minus the adjusted basis to the school corporation that initially sold the vacant building. Our point is this provision does not apply to non-publics, it only applies to charters.
Yeah, I apologize. I thought you said the term profit. I'm sorry.
I believe I used profit, but technically gain. I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown.